When Jada and Janelle Carter transferred to the prestigious Westbrook Academy, a private school predominantly attended by white students, they knew it wouldn't be easy. But no one could have predicted that the biggest challenge awaiting them would be Olivia Bennett. From the moment the twins stepped through the polished gates of the school, Olivia, a beautiful, wealthy, and powerful student at Westbrook, decided to make their lives a living hell. Jada and Janelle endured every cruel taunt, every hateful insult, and every deliberate act of humiliation. But when Olivia's cruelty crossed the line and became physical, she and her group of friends unknowingly crossed a dangerous boundary. What Olivia didn't know was that Jada and Janelle were both black belts, trained by their father, a former soldier who had taught them never to bow their heads to hatred. Olivia thought she had chosen weak targets, but she couldn't have been more wrong. Westbrook Academy is a prestigious private school located in a wealthy neighborhood on the outskirts of Boston. From a distance, the expansive campus with its old brick buildings, meticulously cared for green lawns and towering trees creates a perfect and impressive picture of wealth and power. On the road leading to the school, a silver car gently stopped in front of the main gate. The two black twin sisters, Jada and Janelle Carter, stepped out of the car. They wore the school's freshly pressed uniform: dark blue blazers, yellow and green striped ties, and neatly checkered skirts. Both of them carried an air of confidence, but deep in their eyes, there was a mix of nervousness and excitement they couldn't hide. "You two okay?" came the warm, gentle voice of Marcus Carter, their father, as he placed a hand on their shoulders, trying to offer a sense of reassurance that he knew they needed. "Yes, Dad," Jada responded, her eyes shining with determination. "We're ready." Janelle silently nodded, but in her heart, many doubts lingered. She wasn't sure if she was truly prepared for life at a school so different from anything they had known before. Marcus looked into his daughter's eyes and could sense the unease they were trying to hide behind their strong exterior. He gently reminded them one last time, "No matter what happens, remember that I'm always here, standing by your side. Never let anyone make you feel small or inferior." After a tight hug from their father, the twins joined hands and stepped onto the Westbrook campus for the first time. The moment they walked through the gates, an unfamiliar feeling swept over them. The gazes from the students gathered around the yard immediately turned toward the newcomers. It wasn't the friendly, curious looks they were used to. It was the scrutinizing, judgmental stares full of suspicion. Conversations suddenly hushed, replaced by hushed whispers that were clearly far from friendly. "They're looking at us," Janelle whispered, trying to keep her voice steady. "Let them," Jada said firmly, though she couldn't completely shake the uneasy feeling within. The two sisters quickly made their way to the principal's office to receive their schedules and school guidelines. But the short walk felt longer than ever. Every step they took was met with cold stares and soft malicious laughter from the groups of students as they passed by. As they neared the office, a beautiful blonde girl in a perfectly tailored uniform, standing with a group of friends, leaned against the wall outside. The girl locked eyes with the twins, her gaze both challenging and curious. She flashed a half-smile, full of mystery, before turning to whisper something to her friends, causing them all to break into quiet laughter. "Do you think she is?" Jada asked softly, a sense of discomfort creeping into her. Janelle shrugged lightly, but the blonde girl's gaze unsettled her deeply, a gut feeling telling her that something bad was coming their way very soon. "Whoever she is, we can't let her bully us," Jada said firmly, her voice strong as if reminding herself more than anything. Finally, they reached the office. In the quiet space, they could feel the secretary's scrutinizing gaze as she handed them their schedules and a map of the school. She lingered a little longer than usual, her eyes seemingly evaluating whether the two girls truly belonged there. Leaving the office, on the vast and quiet hallway, Jada let out a quiet sigh, her eyes reflecting her real anxiety. "Do you think we made the wrong choice, Janelle?" Janelle gently squeezed her sister's hand, her voice soft but resolute. "No, Jada. We belong wherever we choose to, and Westbrook is no exception. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." The bell for the start of classes rang in the distance. The two sisters exchanged a look, took a deep breath, and walked confidently toward their first class, ready to face whatever Westbrook Academy had in store for them. But deep down, both of them understood that today was just the beginning of a long journey, where they would not only have to fight to fit in, but also to protect their self-respect and their sense of worth. The first bell of the school day had barely rung when Westbrook Academy quickly fell into a serious, silent atmosphere of focused study. However, down the hallway at the end of the building, that silence seemed unable to mask the sharp, powerful sound of high heels echoing with every confident step. Each of those steps signaled the unmistakable presence of someone special, someone whom everyone had to step aside for as she passed. That person was Olivia Bennett. Olivia was an 11th grade student, widely known throughout Westbrook Academy, not only for her striking beauty, her glossy blonde hair, piercing green eyes, and slender, graceful figure, but also for the invisible power she wielded. As the only daughter of Samuel Bennett, the chairman of a major financial conglomerate with influence throughout Boston, Olivia had grown up accustomed to being admired and obeyed. The fame and wealth of the Bennett family created an invisible wall around Olivia, one that no one in the school dared to breach. But what truly set Olivia apart was her cold, haughty, and challenging demeanor. She never hesitated to flaunt her superiority to everyone around her. Her friends always had to tread carefully, trying to win her favor to avoid angering the Westbrook princess, while other students would quietly keep their distance, fearing that even a single look that displeased Olivia could make their lives unbearably difficult. This morning, during the first break, Olivia stood next to her personal locker in the main hallway. Calmly, she inspected her reflection in the small mirror hanging on the locker door, satisfied with the perfect appearance she had carefully crafted. Her hair curling gently in elegant waves, her lips coated with light pink gloss, and her eyes always cold yet irresistibly captivating. At that moment, Madison and Ashley, her two loyal friends, always following Olivia like shadows, walked up to her with smiles and curious glances. "Olivia, have you heard the news?" Madison whispered, her voice filled with excitement yet subtle secrecy. "What news?" Olivia replied casually, not taking her eyes off the mirror. "Our school just got 2 new twin sisters. I hear they're pretty special." Ashley chimed in, her eyes sparkling with interest. "But what's really interesting is they're not like us." Olivia paused her actions, her gaze immediately shifting. "Not like us?" she asked, her tone colder than usual. They're black," Madison said quietly, her eyes darting to Olivia to gauge her reaction. "I heard their father is some former soldier. They probably got in on a scholarship, poor people, you know." Olivia smirked lightly, but deep in her eyes there was a chilling, distant coldness. The arrival of the Carter twins made her feel instantly uncomfortable. Westbrook had long been her playground, wealthy, powerful, and part of the elite class. The presence of these two felt like a stain on the beautiful shirt she proudly wore every day. Olivia gently closed the locker door and turned fully towards Madison and Ashley. "What do you two think?" She lowered her voice, her tone sweet but laced with sarcasm. Seems like Westbrook is lowering its standards. Couldn't they find anyone better to admit? Why let people like them into this school? Madison and Ashley immediately burst into giggles, but when they saw the coldness in Olivia's eyes, they immediately quieted down, trying to act serious. Olivia smiled softly, as though she wasn't concerned at all. "But it's fine," she continued. "Maybe they'll figure out soon enough that they don't belong here. We'll help them realize that as soon as possible." With that, Olivia walked off, leaving her two friends looking at each other with excitement and curiosity, eager to follow her, as if they had just been included in an important plan about to unfold. From the far end of the hallway, Jada and Janelle emerged from their first class. Neither of them knew that Olivia's cold gaze had been following them from afar, and a plan had already started forming in the mind of the most powerful student at Westbrook. Olivia looked at them again, this time her gaze not just annoyed but openly challenging and dangerous. In her heart, she was determined that these new girls could not stay here long. Westbrook was her kingdom, and Olivia Bennett would do whatever it took to protect her status and reputation from anyone, especially two unfamiliar twin sisters who were unknowingly becoming the greatest threat to the perfect world she had worked so hard to build. Right after Olivia's challenging glance, the following days at Westbrook Academy became more difficult than ever for the twins, Jada and Janelle. At first, the acts of racism were subtle. Cold stares, hushed whispers, and the sound of giggles whenever the sisters passed through the hallways. But it didn't take long for Olivia to decide that wasn't enough to convey the message she wanted to send. One morning, during the break between classes, as the sisters entered the crowded cafeteria, Olivia, along with Madison and Ashley, was already seated at the center table. The most coveted spot, desired by almost every student at the school. Olivia looked over at Jada and Janelle as they walked in, and her smile instantly turned into one full of hidden meaning. "It seems like today's menu has changed a bit," Olivia said loud enough for those around to hear. "I didn't know Westbrook now serves imported dark chocolate." Immediately, light laughter rippled through the room. Though not loud, it was enough to make Jada and Janelle blush with embarrassment. However, Jada gently squeezed her sister's hand and calmly walked past, trying to ignore the mockery. They found an empty table in the far corner, away from the scrutinizing eyes of the crowd. Olivia didn't stop. She tilted her head and deliberately spoke louder. "I wonder if those chocolate dishes are sweet enough to suit everyone's taste." Ashley burst out laughing, and Madison discreetly covered her mouth, snickering. Some other students stifled their laughter, curiously and warily eyeing the Carter twins. Janelle felt a surge of anger building within her, but she remembered her father's words. Marcus had once told them seriously, "There will be times when others will try to provoke you into reacting. Never give them that opportunity." She took a deep breath and gently placed her hand on Jada's shoulder, a reminder for both of them to stay calm. However, Olivia wasn't done yet. The next day, during gym class, when all the girls were changing in the locker room, Olivia deliberately spoke out to Madison in an innocent yet malicious tone. "Hey, Madison, do you think someone with dark skin can even see the stains? Or maybe they don't need to shower because they won't notice the difference anyway." Giggles echoed immediately, and the air in the room grew tense. Jada clenched her fists, trying to control her breathing, while Janelle could only lower her head, the mix of shame and anger making her heart race. "Don't pay attention to them," Jada whispered softly, trying to keep her composure, though she was deeply angered. "We can't let them get what they want." But Olivia, as if anticipating their thoughts, continued with even colder and more malicious words in the days that followed. She frequently pretended to be surprised and would whisper to her friends whenever the twins walked by, "I don't understand why Westbrook keeps letting in people who don't belong. Aren't they afraid of ruining the reputation of this place?" Those mocking words were always loud enough for Jada and Janelle to hear, but not too loud for teachers to notice. This only made the two sisters feel more helpless and tormented than ever before. Every evening when they returned home, Jada and Janelle would hide their sadness, trying to smile at their father, not wanting Marcus to know what they were enduring. But Marcus, with the sensitivity and understanding of an experienced father, easily recognized the tired, sad eyes of his daughters. He often reminded them, "I know you're trying to endure. But remember, silence and patience can sometimes be the most powerful weapons. People like that will quickly lose patience when they can't provoke you anymore." Jada and Janelle understood their father's words, but what they didn't expect was how persistent and determined Olivia Bennett was. Olivia wasn't merely teasing or provoking them. She seemed to be deliberately pushing them to their breaking point, trying to force them to react. As the days passed, their patience wore thinner and thinner. The cold stares and biting words from Olivia gradually wore down their resolve. Each morning, as they stepped onto the school grounds, Jada and Janelle couldn't help but wonder, what new insults or mockery would Olivia and her friends come up with today? But despite facing increasingly harsh comments, Jada and Janelle remained determined to hold on to their last ounce of patience. They believed that as long as they didn't respond, Olivia would eventually grow bored and give up. However, what the twins didn't know was that Olivia Bennett had prepared for a much worse plan, and their silent patience was slowly driving her to escalate her racist actions to an unprecedented level of severity. But it was precisely Jada and Janelle's silence, and their attempts to endure that only made Olivia more uncomfortable. She was used to people submitting to her sharpness, and the fact that the Carter twins weren't reacting became something she could not tolerate. Olivia couldn't stand the thought that at Westbrook Academy there were people who refused to obey her authority, and as if to prove she would always be the winner, Olivia decided to escalate everything to a new level. Starting from subtle mocking, Olivia began to shift to more overt and bold actions, making everyday life at school for the two sisters increasingly tense. One morning, as Jada was walking out of her math class with a stack of books in her arms, Olivia, along with Madison and Ashley, stood near the door, waiting for the opportunity to act. As soon as Jada passed by, Olivia pretended to accidentally bump into her forcefully. The stack of books Jada was holding immediately spilled onto the floor. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you standing there," Olivia said with a fake, innocent smile, but her eyes were cold, clearly declaring that this was no accident. Jada tried to control the anger rising within her, silently bending down to pick up each book while Olivia and her friends stood laughing with satisfaction. In the days that followed, the situation only worsened. During lunch, when Janelle was carrying her tray and looking for a seat, Madison deliberately stuck out her foot, causing Janelle to almost trip. Her food flew off the plate and spilled all over the floor, attracting the gaze of every student in the cafeteria. Olivia crossed her arms, standing nearby, smiling coldly as she watched Janelle's obvious embarrassment. "Be careful," Ashley mocked. "Don't dirty our floor anymore." The laughter from Olivia's group erupted, making Janelle's face flush with both anger and shame, but she quickly regained her composure, keeping silent and hurriedly cleaning up the mess, trying to hide her weakness from Olivia. Not content with just physical bumps, Olivia also used her influence to gradually isolate the twins. She spread malicious rumors, making sure no one dared to approach Jada and Janelle for fear of being shunned by Olivia. Other students at school, though unwilling to get involved, stayed silent and turned their backs, leaving Jada and Janelle with almost no one but each other. One day, during gym class, Madison intentionally threw the basketball hard at Janelle when she wasn't paying attention, causing her to fall to the floor in pain. Olivia stood by, watching with satisfaction as Janelle tried to hide her pain and quickly got back up. "Sorry," Olivia said coldly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We're not used to having people like you here." Though they didn't respond, both Jada and Janelle were deeply aware that these weren't just normal actions of jealousy or irritation. This was clearly a serious form of hostility aimed directly at them simply because of their skin color and background. In the evenings when they returned home, Jada and Janelle often sat quietly in their room, trying to hide their tears of helplessness and hurt. Marcus, though not directly asking, always gently encouraged his daughters by reminding them, "You are much stronger than they think. Don't let their hatred define who you are." Marcus's words became the last source of strength for the two sisters to keep pushing forward. But Jada knew that if Olivia kept pushing things further, there would come a point when they couldn't stay silent anymore. No matter how much they wanted to avoid conflict, Jada understood that every person has a limit to their endurance. Meanwhile, Olivia, cold and ruthless, continued plotting her next move. She didn't just want Jada and Janelle to endure, she wanted them to break completely and leave Westbrook in failure and disgrace. And both Jada and Janelle, no matter how patient and strong they were, began to realize that they could no longer remain silent in the face of these extreme actions. They knew that sooner or later they would have to rise up and fight back, even if it meant confronting Olivia Bennett directly, the most powerful girl at Westbrook Academy. Realizing that her previous actions hadn't yet managed to break the Carter sisters, Olivia decided she needed a much more ruthless plan. She didn't just want to hurt their self-esteem. Olivia wanted to publicly humiliate these two girls in front of the entire Westbrook school, ensuring that they would never dare to set foot here again. That morning, as the early sunlight filtered through the long hallways of Westbrook, Olivia, along with Madison and Ashley, arrived earlier than usual. The three girls held markers and paintbrushes in their hands, their faces filled with eager malice. Olivia glanced around and then smiled coldly, pointing toward the two lockers side by side, where Jada and Janelle kept their books and personal items. "Let's get started," Olivia whispered, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction as she imagined the humiliating scene the sisters would soon face. Immediately, Madison and Ashley got to work, quickly scribbling hateful, offensive words on the lockers, cruel and harsh phrases. Olivia wasn't far behind, drawing vicious caricatures, deliberately highlighting the girls' skin color. The three of them quietly laughed as they looked at their handiwork, showing no remorse for the malicious act they had just carried out. But Olivia wasn't done yet. She pulled out her phone and took close-up photos of every detail, savoring the moment as she believed that within just a few hours, these two girls would be utterly destroyed in reputation. Within minutes, Olivia posted the photos online with a mocking, malicious caption, "Westbrook welcomes two special guests. Who wants to try this dark chocolate?" When the bell for the first class rang, students across the school flooded into the hallways. A crowd quickly gathered around the lockers, whispers turning into loud, cruel, mocking laughter. No one stepped forward to intervene, and even the teachers were not yet around to witness the scene. Olivia stood nearby, her arms crossed in front of her, a smug and challenging expression on her face, eagerly awaiting the moment the sisters would arrive. Jada and Janelle had no idea what awaited them as they cheerfully entered the school, just like any other day. But their smiles quickly vanished when they got closer and saw the horrific scene before them. The racist slurs, the ugly caricatures on their personal lockers left them frozen, feeling as if hundreds of cold stares were piercing through them. Around them, students, those they had once hoped might become friends, were either laughing or avoiding their gaze with pity, but no one offered help. The feeling of isolation and humiliation had never been so intense and clear. Janelle's heart raced so fast she felt like she couldn't breathe, while Jada felt her hand trembling violently, her eyes stinging as she tried to hold back tears. "It's a shame we don't have any classes on how to behave with people like them," Olivia said loudly, her voice cold but filled with amusement. The crowd responded with loud laughter, deepening the pain the two sisters felt. Jada looked at Olivia, her gaze not just full of anger, but utter disappointment in the extent of cruelty this girl was willing to go to out of blind hatred. Madison and Ashley stood beside Olivia, looking pleased as they watched the twins suffering. Olivia turned to her friends, smiling faintly. "Now, let's see if they still think they deserve to be here." Those words felt like a sharp dagger piercing Jada and Janelle's hearts, making them question their long-standing decision to remain silent. This was no longer a harmless prank, nor was it just teasing. This was a deliberate attack, designed to hurt and humiliate them in front of the entire school. Amid the cruel laughter that echoed through the hallway, Jada gripped her sister's hand tightly. In her tear-filled but resolute eyes, there was a spark of fury and defiance that had never been there before. She knew that silence would no longer get them out of this situation. They couldn't keep bowing their heads. They couldn't let Olivia and her friends continue their actions without consequences. Though Jada and Janelle knew that standing up to Olivia, who wielded significant power at Westbrook, would be an incredibly difficult battle, they also understood that they had no other choice. It was time for them to rise up and defend their dignity and self-respect. At that moment, the hallway of Westbrook Academy was no longer just a place of mockery and shame. It had become the starting point for a fair fight. A fight that Jada and Janelle had decided they would never let themselves lose so easily. In the tense moment when the cruel laughter of the crowd still echoed through the hallways of Westbrook, Janelle felt something inside her completely break. Deep within her, an anger that she had always tried to suppress finally erupted, compelling her to remain silent no longer. Janelle released her grip on Jada's hand and walked straight up to Olivia with a determined, powerful look in her eyes. "Stop it, Olivia." Janelle spoke clearly, her voice ringing loud enough for everyone around them to hear. "This joke has gone too far. You have no right to treat us like this." The hallway immediately fell silent, with hundreds of eyes turning toward Janelle and Olivia. For the first time since arriving at Westbrook, Janelle dared to confront Olivia Bennett, a move no one had ever made before. Olivia, initially taken aback by Janelle's defiance, quickly twisted her lips into a thin, mocking smile. She took a step forward, closing the distance between her and Janelle, her voice cold and threatening as she spoke. "What did you just say, Janelle? I don't think I heard you clearly." Janelle clenched her fist, trying to keep her voice steady. "I said stop it. We haven't done anything to offend you, so why do you keep tormenting us?" For a brief moment, the silence in the hallway felt suffocating. Olivia could clearly feel the curious, tense stares of the surrounding students. For her, having someone challenge her so openly was completely unacceptable. Without warning, Olivia glared at Janelle, her green eyes filled with fury. Then, without hesitation, Olivia shoved Janelle hard in the shoulder, sending her crashing to the floor with a painful thud that echoed in the silent hallway. The crowd collectively gasped at the boldness of Olivia's actions, but no one spoke up in protest. Jada immediately rushed to her sister's side, her face burning with anger. She helped Janelle up, her sharp gaze fixed on Olivia. Olivia stood there calmly, brushing her hands off as if she had touched something filthy, her voice dripping with taunting malice. "Next time, know your place, Janelle. Don't ever dare stand in front of me like that again." The sound of Madison and Ashley's snickering added fuel to the fire, making the humiliation of the two sisters feel deeper than ever. But this time, instead of lowering their heads like before, something inside Jada and Janelle had changed completely. Jada turned to look at her sister, catching a glimpse of Janelle's tear-filled but resolute eyes. In that moment, both sisters understood each other without needing to speak a word. They both realized that this was the final straw. They could no longer endure this, and they could no longer stay silent in the face of Olivia's increasingly harsh actions. Jada stood tall, her gaze as strong as if a fierce flame had been ignited within her. She looked directly at Olivia, her voice firm and clear, echoing through the hallway. "Olivia, this is the last time we're going to tolerate this. You have no right to treat us this way. We're not as weak as you think." Olivia raised an eyebrow, surprised by Jada's strong response, but she quickly laughed, her smile full of challenge and disdain. "Oh, really? And what are you two going to do? Tell the principal? Or cry to your parents?" Laughter rippled through the crowd again, but this time it had no effect on the two sisters. Jada took a step toward Olivia, her voice full of determination, each word coming out clearly like a declaration. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect ourselves. And from now on, we will never be silent again." Janelle stood by her sister, her eyes equally firm. Together they turned and walked away, leaving behind the whispering crowd and Olivia's disgruntled face. Olivia watched them leave, feeling a strange, unfamiliar unease beginning to stir inside her. For Olivia, being openly challenged was something she couldn't tolerate, but deep down, she couldn't help but wonder if this time she had underestimated the Carter sisters. At the end of the hallway, Jada and Janelle walked side by side, their resolve stronger than ever. They knew that this decision meant facing many challenges ahead, but they also understood that their endurance had reached its limit. Olivia Bennett had officially declared war on them, and this time they wouldn't back down. The two sisters tightened their grip on each other's hands, silently reminding themselves, from this moment forward they would stand up, not only to protect their dignity, but also to prove that at Westbrook Academy no one, no matter how powerful, could ever belittle or harm others unjustly again. From the moment they left the hallway, Jada and Janelle were filled with an unprecedented determination. The harm that Olivia and her friends had caused had surpassed their limit, and both knew they needed to respond strongly to protect their dignity and honor. That evening, when they got home, the sisters quietly told their father, Marcus Carter, everything that had happened. He listened attentively, his expression calm but filled with resolve. Marcus understood that his daughters had done their best to endure and hold back, but he also knew that this patience couldn't last forever. "I've always taught you to be patient, but I've also taught you to protect yourselves when needed," Marcus said seriously, looking deeply into his daughter's eyes. "If you've decided not to stay silent anymore, then do it clearly and proudly." Marcus's words gave the sisters strength and courage. That entire night, Jada and Janelle barely slept, constantly thinking about their decision and how they would face Olivia the next day. The next morning, everything at Westbrook Academy seemed normal, but in Jada and Janelle's hearts, they knew today would be different. As the two sisters stepped into the schoolyard, Olivia and her group were already standing there, their faces full of challenge and confidence, waiting. "Well, look who's back. The little sisters are here," Olivia said loudly, her tone dripping with sarcasm, drawing the attention of all the students around them. "Are you planning on protesting again today?" Laughter erupted from the crowd, but this time, Instead of walking away with their heads down like before, Jada and Janelle stopped and looked straight at Olivia with determined and strong expressions. "Yes, Olivia," Jada said clearly and confidently, "we're not going to let you insult or bully us again." Olivia was slightly taken aback by Jada's firm response, but she quickly sneered, stepping closer with a provocative look on her face. "Well then, prove it. Let's see what you can do." As soon as Olivia finished speaking, Madison and Ashley stepped forward, arms crossed, ready to back up their friend. The crowd fell silent, watching with a mix of curiosity and tension. No one expected what was about to happen. At that moment, Janelle exchanged a quick glance with her sister, and both took a deep breath, recalling the black belt martial arts skills their father, Marcus Carter, a former soldier with years of experience, had taught them over the years. In an instant, all tension and worry vanished, replaced by calmness and sharp focus. Olivia suddenly lunged forward, deliberately trying to shove Jada like she had done before. But this time, with quick and decisive reflexes, Jada gracefully dodged, then immediately grabbed Olivia's wrist, spun her around skillfully, and made Olivia lose her balance, causing her to fall to the ground in utter shock. Madison and Ashley rushed forward, but Janelle was ready. With a swift and accurate move, she avoided Madison's charge and performed a perfect leg sweep, knocking Madison off balance and sending her crashing next to Olivia. Ashley, startled, tried to retreat, but Janelle was quicker, blocking her next move with a firm yet light arm lock, forcing Ashley to kneel in defeat. In just a few seconds, Olivia and her two closest friends were completely taken down, lying on the schoolyard in stunned silence. The surrounding students gasped, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The ones who had once confidently bullied others were now helplessly lying on the ground, embarrassed and confused. Jada and Janelle stood tall, their eyes shining with pride but without arrogance. They watched as Olivia and her friends struggled to get up, their faces filled with disbelief. Jada then spoke clearly, so everyone could hear. "Never think we'll continue to be the victims of your cruel game. This is the last time you're allowed to insult us." The schoolyard fell into complete silence. Every student at Westbrook witnessed an unprecedented scene and understood deep down that from that day forward, nothing would ever be the same again. Olivia stood up, her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and fury, but deep within her mind, she realized she had underestimated the Carter sisters. Olivia knew that from this moment, her power at Westbrook had been seriously shaken, and the battle ahead would not be as easy as before. In the middle of the schoolyard, Jada and Janelle stood side by side, for the first time feeling truly relieved and free. They knew that today's stand was not just about defending themselves, but it was a powerful and clear statement to the entire Westbrook school. From now on, they would never bow down to anyone again. But Jada and Janelle's joy and relief were short-lived. Less than an hour after the incident, Samuel and Victoria Bennett, Olivia's parents, the most powerful couple in the community, arrived at the principal's office, their faces full of anger and outrage. Samuel Bennett, a businessman with far-reaching influence throughout the area, immediately made a stern demand that the school take severe action against the Carter sisters. He emphasized, with a threatening tone, that he would not tolerate his daughter being insulted and humiliated within the school grounds. Victoria Bennett, a sophisticated yet cold woman, spoke with an equally stern expression. "You cannot allow people like them to continue disrupting the order at Westbrook. We did not pay for our daughter to be assaulted like this." Under the immense pressure from the Bennett family, the school administration didn't take long to make a decision. Just hours later, Jada and Janelle were called to the principal's office to explain the incident. As they entered the principal's office, the sisters immediately sensed the unusually tense atmosphere. Principal Thomas Whitmore sat behind his desk, his face stiff and cold, deliberately avoiding eye contact. Next to him, Vice Principal Eleanor Clark looked at the two girls with a stern, reproachful expression, as if they were criminals deserving no mercy. "Sir, this was clearly a case of self-defense." Jada spoke first, her voice calm but firm. "Olivia and her friends have been bullying and insulting us. What happened today was the result of us being forced to defend ourselves." Principal Whitmore furrowed his brow, but showed no intention of truly listening. Instead, he cleared his throat and spoke mechanically, as if reading from a script that had been prepared in advance. "Regardless of the reasons, you have caused a disturbance and used violence. This behavior is unacceptable at Westbrook. I regret to inform you that we must suspend both of you immediately for a thorough investigation." Janelle's eyes widened in shock, the words feeling like a blow to her self-respect. "But sir," Janelle said, her voice trembling yet still trying to stay calm, "what about what Olivia did to us? She insulted us, bullied us, and even shoved me in front of the whole school. Doesn't the school see that?" Vice Principal Clark quickly interjected, her voice cold and clearly biased. "You have no right to justify your violent actions with any excuse. Olivia and her family have clearly stated that she didn't intend to harm you. On the contrary, you acted excessively and dangerously." Jada and Janelle stood stunned in front of the blatant injustice they were facing. They could clearly feel the favoritism the school was showing towards the Bennett family, something they had feared but hadn't expected to be so blatantly evident. "We've tried to endure for so long," Jada spoke up, her voice growing stronger, though her eyes reflected deep disappointment and hurt. "But the school chooses to believe Olivia's lies just because her parents are wealthier and more powerful than us." Principal Whitmore suddenly became flustered, but he still held firm to his stance, as though he were defending a decision that had already been made. "The decision to suspend you is final. If there are further disruptions, the school will be forced to expel you permanently. This is your last chance. Think carefully about this." Janelle stared at the principal, her eyes brimming with tears, but filled with an unshakable resolve. "We will never accept this injustice. The school can suspend us or even expel us, but that will never change the truth," she said firmly. With those words, the two sisters left the office, feeling desperate but not bowing their heads. They understood that the school had openly sided with Olivia and the Bennett family, and there would be no fairness for them at Westbrook anymore. Back home, they immediately recounted everything to their father. Marcus listened carefully, his expression serious but calm and strong. "They think power and money can silence us," Marcus said, his voice firm yet filled with determination. "But they're wrong. I'll stand with you, and we will fight to the end. We will prove that justice and truth have greater power than those things." Marcus's words rang out like a powerful declaration, reinforcing the resolve and determination within Jada and Janelle. The sisters understood that no matter what challenges they faced ahead, they would never allow themselves to be defeated by this injustice. The road ahead was full of obstacles, but this time they would face it with all the strength and courage their father had taught them. The following morning, Marcus Carter decided to go directly to meet with the principal and administration of Westbrook Academy to defend his daughters and set the record straight. Marcus, a respected former military man known for his discipline, sternness, but also his fairness and integrity, walked with strong, determined steps into the principal's office, his gaze resolute but still calm and polite. When Marcus entered, Principal Whitmore and Vice Principal Clark were already waiting, their faces clearly displeased, clearly not wanting this meeting to take place. Marcus greeted them with a slight nod, sat down, and placed his hands on the desk in a calm yet commanding manner. "Mr. Carter," Principal Whitmore began, his tone cold but trying to maintain politeness, "I'm very sorry for what happened to your daughters, but our decision is final." Marcus silently stared at the principal for a few seconds before responding, his voice warm, yet carrying the strength of someone who had faced many challenges. "I'm not here to ask the school to change an illogical decision. I'm here to ask you to take a moment and clearly recognize the truth. What happened to Jada and Janelle was self-defense, in response to a series of intentional insults and bullying. My daughters do not deserve to be treated unfairly like this." Vice Principal Clark immediately interjected, her voice cold and clearly showing her unwillingness to engage in a debate. "Mr. Carter, we've heard your daughter's explanations. However, no matter the reason, violence on school grounds is unacceptable. Our decision is fair and justified." Marcus squinted slightly, his sharp gaze directed at Mrs. Clark, his voice slow and deliberate. "You call that decision fair? I'm sorry, but I don't agree. You're intentionally ignoring the cause of the incident because your opponent is the daughter of a wealthy and influential family. This is not justice, this is favoritism." Principal Whitmore cleared his throat, sitting up straighter and speaking uncomfortably. "I understand your point, but the Bennett family are important donors to the school. We must consider many factors, and I'm sorry, but the current evidence shows that Jada and Janelle acted beyond the acceptable limit." Marcus shook his head, disappointed but still composed and steadfast. "Your school prides itself on its reputation and integrity, but now you're willing to trade fairness and honor just to please your donors? How can you teach students about ethics when you, yourselves, are standing firmly on the side of injustice like this?" Vice Principal Clark, losing patience, interjected harshly. "Mr. Carter, you're insulting our honor. I suggest you respect the decision the school has made. If you continue to apply pressure, we will have no choice but to expel your daughters." Marcus heard those words but remained unfazed, his eyes resolute and cold. "If you think threatening me will make me stop, then you're mistaken. I will not remain silent while my daughters endure this injustice. I want you to understand this. I will fight to the end to protect the truth." Principal Whitmore tried to remain calm, but his eyes clearly avoided Marcus's gaze. "I'm very sorry that we can't help you more. Please understand our situation." Marcus stood up, adjusting his coat formally, his gaze still unwavering in its determination. "I cannot sympathize with this clear injustice and favoritism. Today, the school has refused to listen to the truth, but I will not let this end here." With those words, Marcus walked out of the office, leaving Principal Whitmore and Vice Principal Clark to exchange tense and worried glances. Although they tried to appear strong and decisive on the outside, both of them knew that Marcus Carter was not someone who would easily back down. The man had faced countless hardships in the military, always standing for justice, and he would do whatever it took to protect his loved ones. As he stepped out of the school gates, Marcus paused for a moment, looking up at the vast sky as if searching for answers to the injustices his daughters had endured. In that moment, he made a strong decision. He would continue to fight, not just for his daughters, but for the values of fairness he had always believed in and protected. Marcus knew the road ahead would be full of challenges, but he also understood that the truth would always find a way to be exposed, and he would never give up until justice was truly served. The morning after the tense meeting at Westbrook, Marcus Carter returned home with a heavy heart, but an unwavering resolve. He knew he had inadvertently touched a great power, but he had never been one to easily back down from any pressure. He decided that he would protect his daughters at all costs, even if it meant directly confronting the Bennett family. Less than a day later, in the late afternoon, as the sky turned to dusk, a luxurious car screeched to a halt in front of the Carter family home. Samuel Bennett, along with his wife Victoria, stepped out with expressions of arrogance and determination. They quickly made their way toward Marcus's door, as if embarking on a conquest they were certain would be theirs to win. Hearing the noise outside, Marcus immediately stepped out, standing calmly at the door, his demeanor composed and dignified. Jada and Janelle stood behind their father, their eyes filled with concern but absolute trust in him. "Mr. Bennett," Marcus spoke first, his voice cold yet polite. "I'm quite surprised to see you here. Is there something you wish to discuss?" Samuel Bennett sneered, his eyes looking at Marcus as if he were far beneath him. "I've come to make one final offer, Carter," Samuel said, his tone clearly threatening. "You and your daughters have caused enough trouble. I demand that you immediately leave this town. If not, you'll pay a very heavy price." Marcus didn't flinch at the threat. He remained calm, his gaze sharp as he looked directly at Samuel. "I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, but my family isn't going anywhere. We've done nothing wrong to deserve running away. My daughters were merely defending themselves against your daughter's insults." Victoria Bennett stepped forward, her voice cold and full of arrogance. "Mr. Carter, do you truly think you can stand against us? We have enough power to make your life a living hell. If you refuse to back down, what happens next will make you regret it for the rest of your life." Marcus looked at Victoria for a long moment before responding with a quiet smile, full of confidence and pride. "Ma'am, I've faced situations far more dangerous than this. Don't ever think I will submit to threats or the power of anyone." Samuel, feeling insulted by Marcus's firm stance, stepped closer with a furious expression. Losing his temper, he pointed a finger at Marcus, nearly shouting, "You're challenging the wrong person, Carter. I won't let you or your family live in peace." In an instant, Samuel lunged forward, intending to strike Marcus. But Marcus, with the skill and training of a seasoned soldier, was ready. With an incredibly quick and precise movement, Marcus easily dodged Samuel's attack, grabbed his wrist, and gently but firmly controlled him. In the blink of an eye, Samuel Bennett was trapped, standing there in shock and humiliation. Victoria recoiled, her eyes wide with disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Jada and Janelle stood behind their father, watching it all unfold, a mix of pride and relief filling their hearts at their father's incredible strength. Marcus held Samuel firmly, but his voice remained calm, clear, and authoritative. "I don't want to hurt you, Bennett, but you crossed the line when you brought your threats to my home. This is the last warning. Never hurt or threaten my family again." Samuel gritted his teeth, his face turning red with anger and shame. He struggled, but Marcus's resolve and skill left him no chance to break free. After a few tense seconds, Marcus slowly released Samuel, emphasizing that he had full control over the situation. Samuel staggered back, rubbing his sore wrist, glaring at Marcus with pure contempt. "You'll regret this, Carter," Samuel hissed viciously. "I don't think so," Marcus replied, his voice still calm and assured. "The one who will regret this is you, if you continue to believe that your money and power can silence everyone." Samuel said nothing more. He turned and walked away in utter humiliation. Victoria quickly followed, shooting Marcus a look filled with both fear and hatred. When the car door slammed shut and the vehicle sped away, Marcus turned to his daughters, his expression soft but still full of resolve. "You must always remember this. We never surrender to anyone who threatens justice and truth. No matter the hardship, we can overcome it, as long as we believe in ourselves." Jada and Janelle looked at their father, their hearts full of admiration and unwavering trust. They knew that this battle wasn't over, but now, more than ever, they felt at peace knowing they had a strong and courageous father who was ready to protect and fight for them to the very end. The tense confrontation between the Bennett family and the Carter family quickly spread throughout the town. The atmosphere grew more suffocating, tense to the point that the local authorities could no longer stand idly by. Just 2 days after the standoff outside the Carter home, a police investigative team officially got involved to clarify the situation. Sheriff Robert Harris, a man known for his fairness and long-standing reputation in law enforcement, personally came to meet with Marcus to collect evidence and detailed testimonies. Harris had worked with Marcus several times before and knew him well. When Harris entered the Carter family living room, he greeted Marcus with a firm handshake and deep respect. Marcus returned the gesture calmly, his eyes conveying a willingness to cooperate and trust in justice. "I'm sorry for the recent events," Sheriff Harris said sincerely, "but I assure you that we will conduct a fair investigation and ensure that the truth is revealed." Marcus nodded gently, his face serious but filled with trust. "I believe in your fairness, Robert. We just want the truth to be made clear, and those responsible for this to be held accountable," Marcus said. Soon after, Marcus provided the entire video footage from the security cameras around the house, clearly documenting each aggressive action by Samuel Bennett, from when he rushed to attack Marcus to when he was effectively and calmly restrained. Additionally, Marcus also provided the investigative team with videos that Jada and Janelle had secretly saved for self-defense, which showed the continuous bullying and discriminatory actions Olivia Bennett and her friends had carried out at school. Sheriff Harris and the investigative team spent hours thoroughly analyzing the footage. Each sharp image clearly captured Samuel Bennett's aggressive face, along with his threatening words and gestures. Every second of the video showed Marcus doing his utmost to remain calm and handle the situation without any provocation or aggression on his part. At the same time, the police conducted interviews with witnesses in the neighborhood. Neighbors who had witnessed the entire incident all clearly confirmed that it was Samuel and Victoria Bennett who had been aggressive, coming to the Carter home, threatening and causing trouble first. These neighbors, who had always been wary of the Bennett family because of their wealth and power, decided to stand up as witnesses, showing courage and honesty in the face of the undeniable truth. Meanwhile, the police investigative team also visited Westbrook Academy to meet with students and faculty for their testimonies. Initially, many people seemed hesitant and fearful, but when they realized that Sheriff Harris was determined to pursue the investigation, several students gathered the courage to recount in detail the bullying and discrimination Olivia and her friends had inflicted on Jada and Janelle over the past months. With all the evidence and testimonies carefully compiled, the full picture of the incident became clear to the investigative team. There was no longer any doubt. The Bennett family were the ones truly responsible for starting this highly charged conflict. Their accusations against Marcus and his daughters were nothing but lies, fabricated to cover up the truth and maintain their power in the town. With undeniable evidence, Sheriff Harris decided to summon the Bennett family to the police station for an official interrogation. When Samuel and Victoria walked into the interrogation room, their usual arrogance quickly dissipated before the cold, resolute gaze of Sheriff Harris. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett," Harris said clearly and sternly, "we have ample evidence proving that you deliberately threatened and intimidated the Carter family. We also have clear evidence of your daughter's continuous bullying and insults at Westbrook Academy. Would you like to explain yourselves?" Samuel Bennett, though trying to remain calm, couldn't hide the tension and discomfort as he weakly attempted to justify his actions. "We just wanted to protect our daughter. We never wanted it to go this far." But Harris immediately interrupted, his voice sharp and decisive. "Protect your daughter by coming to someone else's house to threaten and even attack them? Do you really think your power and money are enough to override justice?" Samuel fell silent, his head bowed in shame and helplessness. Victoria, sitting next to him, couldn't offer any further rebuttal, her face showing clear panic and fear in the face of this situation. After the interrogation, Sheriff Harris decided to publicly announce the results of the investigation to the entire town. This clear and transparent truth quickly spread throughout the community, causing the Bennett family to suffer a severe loss of credibility. For the first time, the people of the town witnessed justice standing on the side of truth, unyielding to the power and wealth of anyone. At the Carter home, Marcus and his two daughters sat together, quietly receiving the news with a deep sense of relief. They knew that the battle was not yet fully over, but now they could stand firm knowing that justice and truth had finally been protected, no matter how many challenges they would face along the way. As the evidence from security cameras, videos, and witness testimonies were made public, the dark veil surrounding the Bennett family and Olivia's group of friends began to tear apart. Shortly after Sheriff Harris publicly announced the preliminary results of the investigation, Olivia, along with Madison, Ashley, and Olivia's parents, Samuel and Victoria Bennett, received an official summons from the police department for interrogation. On the day they were required to appear, the sky was overcast, seemingly reflecting the heavy, tense atmosphere inside the interrogation room. Samuel and Victoria entered the police station with cold expressions, clearly lacking the arrogance they once had. Olivia, who had always walked with confidence and haughtiness, now appeared pale, her eyes filled with worry and fear. Madison and Ashley were no better, both with their heads down, avoiding the gaze of those around them, as though they had just woken from a nightmare. Sheriff Harris entered the interrogation room, carrying a thick file filled with all the evidence collected throughout the investigation. He looked directly into Samuel and Victoria's eyes, his voice clear and strong. "Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, our investigation has clearly shown that your daughter, Olivia Bennett, was behind orchestrating a systematic and severe bullying and racial discrimination campaign at Westbrook School. The evidence and testimonies clearly confirm the actions of Olivia and her two friends, Madison and Ashley." Samuel tried to speak, his face tense but still attempting to maintain a fragile sense of confidence. "Sheriff, this was just a misunderstanding from youth. My daughter never intended to hurt anyone." Sheriff Harris was unshaken by Samuel's defense. He opened the file, pulling out a clear photograph of the locker of Jada and Janelle, showing the racial slurs and insults written on it by Olivia and her friends. "This is not a misunderstanding, Mr. Bennett," Harris said firmly. "This was a deliberate act, clearly planned, with the intention to humiliate and cause severe emotional harm to the victims." Olivia sat quietly, tears beginning to roll down her face, her expression a mix of panic and regret as she faced the serious consequences of her own actions. Next, Sheriff Harris presented more evidence. Video footage from the Carter family's security cameras showing Samuel Bennett aggressively rushing to attack Marcus. Witness statements from neighbors who had witnessed the entire incident, confirming that the Bennett family were the ones who initiated the serious conflict. Victoria, who had always been cold and confident, now spoke with a trembling voice as she tried to find a justification. "We were just so angry and couldn't control our actions. We didn't mean to hurt anyone." But Harris shook his head sternly. "That's no excuse for threatening others. The law doesn't discriminate based on wealth or power. It only cares about the truth and justice. You must take full responsibility for the actions you've caused." Madison and Ashley, called in for questioning immediately after, quickly admitted their roles in the bullying. Under the pressure of the police and the clear evidence, both confessed that Olivia was the one who had initiated and organized the bullying systematically and maliciously. "We just did what Olivia told us," Madison sobbed, her voice trembling. "She said nothing would happen because her parents were powerful enough to protect everyone." Ashley nodded in confirmation, tears streaming down her face as she wept from fear and regret. After collecting all the testimonies, Sheriff Harris looked at Olivia sternly and declared clearly and decisively, "Olivia Bennett, you are formally charged with orchestrating bullying, racial discrimination, and disturbing public order. Your parents, Mr. and Mrs. Samuel and Victoria Bennett, are charged with threatening and attacking others intentionally. All of you will be held accountable before the law for the actions you've taken." Samuel and Victoria sat silently, their faces pale as they realized that for the first time, wealth and power could not save them from the consequences of their wrongdoings. Olivia, for the first time, bowed her head deeply, feeling small and powerless, unable to withstand the force of justice now coming down on her. As news of the formal charges against the Bennett family and Olivia's friends spread, the small town was shaken. People, especially students and parents at Westbrook, felt a sense of relief and greater trust in justice. At the Carter home, Marcus, Jada, and Janelle quietly watched the developments, their hearts filled with gratitude and hope. The difficult battle they had just faced now had found its light at the end of the tunnel. Marcus placed his hand on his two daughters' shoulders, his voice gentle yet full of strength. "You two were incredibly brave in facing this injustice. I'm proud of you. Justice has finally been served, and most importantly, you never bowed down to those who tried to trample on the truth." Jada and Janelle smiled, their eyes shining with new strength and faith. They understood that, after all the challenges, the only thing that could stand the test of time was courage and belief in truth and justice. As the news of the official charges against the Bennett family and Olivia's group of friends spread, pressure from the community quickly focused on Westbrook Academy. The reputation and prestige of the prestigious school were at risk of being severely damaged, forcing the school leadership to take urgent action to calm the public's anger. A special press conference was held by the school in the main auditorium with many reporters, parents, teachers, and students in attendance. This was unprecedented at a school known for its secrecy and strict protection of its image. Principal Thomas Whitmore stepped up to the podium, his face showing clear signs of tension and shame, his eyes heavy with a sense of regret. Beside him stood the entire administrative team, all of them visibly serious and reserved in light of the current situation. The murmurs from the crowd gradually quieted as he began to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, parents, students, and the entire community, on behalf of the Westbrook Academy administration, I offer our sincerest and deepest apologies to Mr. Marcus Carter and his daughters, Jada and Janelle Carter, for the grave mishandling of the situation that occurred recently." Principal Whitmore's voice was clear but slightly trembling, showing a sincerity never before seen. "We were unfair and did not seriously consider the truth. We showed unacceptable favoritism and allowed racism, discrimination, and bullying to persist, causing significant harm to innocent students." He paused for a moment, as if gathering strength from within, before continuing with determination. "I commit that, starting today, Westbrook Academy will undergo a comprehensive and thorough reform to eliminate racism and bullying from its roots. We will never again tolerate anyone using power, money, or status to harm others." Applause erupted throughout the auditorium, mixed with emotional whispers from parents and students who had witnessed the prolonged injustice. This was the first time in Westbrook Academy's history that the school openly acknowledged its wrongdoings and accepted responsibility so clearly. Principal Whitmore continued, his tone still serious but filled with resolve. "Along with this, we officially announce that Olivia Bennett, Madison Brooks, and Ashley Turner will be permanently expelled from Westbrook Academy for serious violations of ethical and legal standards. This action is necessary to demonstrate our strong commitment to justice and fairness for all students at this school." In the auditorium below, Olivia, Madison, and Ashley sat in silence, their eyes downcast in shame. The girls who had once been proud and overly confident now had to face the painful consequences of their actions. Meanwhile, Samuel and Victoria Bennett, Olivia's parents, could not attend the press conference because they were facing serious legal charges from the investigating authorities. The power and social status that once helped them overcome many obstacles were now worthless in the face of the truth and the law. After the principal finished his speech, Marcus, Carter, Jada, and Janelle were invited to step onto the stage. Marcus stood there, powerful yet humble, looking across the auditorium with calm and warm eyes. Jada and Janelle stood on either side of their father, their faces glowing with emotion as the truth had finally been acknowledged. Marcus took the microphone and spoke clearly, his voice deep and strong, resonating throughout the auditorium. "My family accepts the school's apology. However, the most important thing now is that real change must take place, not just words. We will continue to monitor and stand with the school to ensure that the commitment made today becomes a reality." He paused, looking at his two daughters, his voice softer as he continued. "I am proud of the strength, courage, and perseverance that Jada and Janelle have shown throughout this time. You've proven that, no matter how hard the challenges, trust in justice and truth will ultimately prevail." Applause rang out again, louder this time, filled with admiration and agreement from the student and parent community. Many of those who had been silent before now felt relieved and were ready to stand up for what was right. As the press conference concluded, the atmosphere in the auditorium had completely changed. People came up to shake hands with Marcus, Jada, and Janelle, expressing their support and sincere gratitude for their courageous fight to change the outdated and unjust practices at Westbrook. In the back of the auditorium, Olivia, Madison, and Ashley quietly left, carrying with them the most valuable lessons of their lives. Their arrogance, selfishness, and discrimination had finally been paid for, and from now on, they would have to face the consequences of their own wrong choices. That afternoon, as the Carter family left Westbrook, Jada and Janelle held their father's hand tightly, filled with gratitude and hope. After all the struggles, they had not only reclaimed justice for themselves, but also paved the way for a better future, for anyone who had suffered the same injustice as they had. After the historic press conference at Westbrook Academy, the gloomy days seemed far behind. When Jada and Janelle returned to school on the first morning after the event, the sunlight poured over the campus, bringing with it a warm and hopeful atmosphere. Students gathered around the school gate, looking at the sisters with admiration and respect. Jada and Janelle walked into the school grounds with pride, heads held high, and smiles on their faces. Throughout the hallways, in each classroom, their friends and teachers greeted them with an unprecedented friendliness. The unfamiliar gazes, mocking words, and coldness from before were now replaced with sincere looks, warm greetings, and absolute support from the student body. Teachers who had once felt ashamed for not speaking up to defend the girls now realized that their silence in the face of injustice was also part of the problem. No longer distant, they now offered care and wholehearted assistance. Some teachers even began to share Jada and Janelle's story with students as a profound lesson about courage, the power of unity, and the importance of fighting for justice. In the first school-wide assembly after the incident, Principal Whitmore took the stage, once again emphasizing the Academy's strong commitment to reform, and expressed a special thank you to Jada and Janelle. Thanks to the extraordinary courage of these two young women, we have come to understand the true value of justice, fairness, and compassion. They have not only fought for themselves, but for all those who have been silenced. Our school is now truly a place for all students, regardless of their skin color or background. The entire auditorium erupted in enthusiastic applause, with everyone looking at the Carter sisters with admiration and gratitude. Students, who had once remained silent in the face of bullying, now understood that it was everyone's responsibility never to turn a blind eye to injustice. As for Olivia and her group of friends, they were expelled from Westbrook permanently, beginning to face the consequences of their wrong choices. Meanwhile, Olivia's parents, Samuel and Victoria Bennett, were now confronted with a complex and serious legal process. Their power and wealth no longer mattered, as justice proved to be the ultimate force that no one could stand above. At the warm home of the Carter family, Marcus sat quietly beside his two daughters one peaceful evening. After all the storms they had weathered, this moment felt like the most precious to him. Marcus spoke softly, his voice warm but deeply meaningful. "You've been through a long and difficult journey. I know the challenges were truly tough and painful. But thanks to your courage and perseverance, not only have you overcome these obstacles, but you've also changed the small world around you. Remember, justice only comes to those brave enough to stand up and fight for it." Jada smiled and gently replied to her father, "We will always remember what you've taught us. Without you by our side, we might not have had the strength to continue fighting." Janelle also nodded, her eyes glowing with pride and determination. "But now we understand that if we don't speak up for ourselves, no one else will stand in for us. This is the most important lesson I've learned." Marcus embraced his two daughters, feeling immense pride. He knew that this journey was not just a personal victory for the Carter family, but a valuable lesson for everyone, spreading the message of courage, unity, and the timeless value of justice. Since Jada and Janelle's story, Westbrook Academy had truly entered a new and meaningful chapter. The student body, parents, and teachers came together to build a healthy, united, and respectful school environment for everyone. The story of the Carter sisters became a living symbol of positive change, spreading everywhere and inspiring others to stand up against injustice. Now, as Jada and Janelle walked through the halls of the school, they no longer felt alone. On the contrary, they could clearly feel the strength and unity from their friends and the community around them. They had turned the pain from their past into strength, and with every step they took, they remembered the profound lesson their father had taught them. Justice only comes to those brave enough to stand up and fight for it. The story of Jada and Janelle Carter is not just a powerful lesson in courage and the strength of unity, but it also shows us that no matter how great the challenge, truth and justice will always prevail. What about you? If you found yourself in a situation similar to the Carter sisters, would you have the courage to stand up against injustice? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving more inspiring stories. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.